It is now officially over 72 hours from my first time water fast. And that meaning I just didn't eat food. I just had water for the last 72 hours with some electrolytes and salt. So here's my first taste of bone broth. Oh, that tastes good. Even though it's unsalted, the taste is very distinct. I like it. So part of the reason why I did the 72-hour fast, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Let me get back to my broth. Oh my God, it tastes so good. So anyway, part of the break fast is to actually get your stomach back into digesting food. Going back, what was it, 4 years ago. So I'm in Seattle for work, and I do freeway construction, mining, tunneling, all that stuff. So we have a job right here in the 405 between Renton and Bellevue. So I come up here about once a month. And 4 years ago, I did a 49-hour fast wrong, meaning Friday night, went to a company Christmas party, got totally drunk. Saturday, I was hungover, miserable, and then Sunday morning I caught a flight. And then I decided to just have this crazy thing, wake up and do a fast. Actually, it felt good, but I felt really bloated. Energy was high, but I just did it all wrong. The reality of fasting or anything you do, I think to me, is a certain mindset. And there's a book that I'll pull up somewhere about You Are the Placebo. And give me 1 second here. Anyway, I just thought, I'm up here again. Why not try it? And let's see what happens. So I stopped eating roughly between 3 and 4 p.m. on Sunday. And depending on what stuff you watch, sometimes I tell you the day before. I originally planned on Monday to start, but then I'm like, well, that might be too late. So I started about 3 or 4 p.m. I didn't really prep it very well. What I ate, I'll show some pictures of what I ate as I remember. And then I stopped eating about 3 or 4 p.m. And then I just started Monday morning, making sure I drank plenty of water after I caught my flight. And I just really pushed a lot of water. I did make sure this time I did have electrolytes and sea salt. I did know this the first time about 4 years ago because I didn't know any better. I didn't really understand all that. You should have electrolytes and salt while you're fasting or even the day before. But I didn't really feel that much of a difference. So I made sure I had a good balance of electrolytes and sea salt. And I really had no issues. I climbed hard on Monday and Tuesday, and it felt great. And actually, the best thing is on Tuesday, I did this climb, 25 tries on this crazy V4 pitch sloper. And I was at this point, and I think that's part of like the book, You Are the Placebo, Your Mindset. I took an hour break, and I got this crazy V4 momentum. Anyway, it was so satisfying. And I think that's the thing that's most satisfying is not the fact that whether you complete a climb or you finish fasting, it's testing yourself. For me, it was a mental test. And I feel good. I feel awake. I drank less coffee. I definitely noticed I had no gastrointestinal issues. I think in 3 days I pooped once. But I never had to worry about food. But this is nice. And just sipping on this. I bought the whole container of the bone broth. I'll sip on probably about half of it. And then the next hour, I'm going to have some of the cucumber sunomono which is a little bit of vinegar, cucumbers, and seaweed. And really just, again, the whole idea is to get the enzymes and the acid in your stomach to start digesting. And the third hour is most important. I'm going to gorge, have a nice big steak, potatoes, find some place. I found a good place. I'm debating whether I should have alcohol or not, but hey, this is my party and celebration, so this is fun. But all in all, I had great energy. I had no real issues. Left shoulder has always nagged me, and I'm saying, not saying, the whole idea about stem cells. I really don't know, but I do know that I could never sleep on my left shoulder for, I don't know how many, 30 years. And I slept on my shoulder Monday night, and I woke up and my shoulder was fine, which is like, okay, is that crazy or what? So I think they may have been activated, but definitely I could tell in a lot of my joint pain is a lot less. So it's not cured, but definitely less. So maybe they are activated. But again, I think that really plays into mindset. And all in all, I've enjoyed it. Will I do this again? I think so. I mean, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. I do intermittent fasting, typically about once every 6 weeks or so. And for me, intermittent fasting is typically about 20 hours or 24 hours and then go back to it. I may try dry fasting, but I mean, give it a try. I mean, all I really do is I was making some good strength gains in, I'm going back to it. Sorry it was so abrupt, that little last section. But one of the things that I wanted to share was also, we don't always think about the food that we eat. And as glorious as that meal was, I did notice nearly 12 hours after I ate that meal, the following morning when I went to work, my body was in absolute pain. And reason being is I have a gluten or a wheat intolerance. I'm not allergic to it, but some people have, intolerance to certain types of foods. And a lot of times we hear you are what you eat. But when we have all these different foods mixing inside our body, we don't realize how much inflammation we have. So when I had the tortilla and the bread and all these other things, my lower back felt the worst. It actually felt like somebody hit me with like a rubber hammer or a rubber mallet, and I really felt like I couldn't even walk. Then my fingers and my elbows and then my shoulder that I had talked about. But now 2 weeks into it, 2 weeks back to my regular diet, I am definitely watching my wheat, definitely reduce it, not limit it. A lot of it for me is really about the quality, and unfortunately domestic wheat or gluten affects me the most horrendously. But if you eat like Italian wheat or Japanese wheat or gluten, it has a very mild effect. So I think how it's processed and where it's made has a lot to do with the severity. So if it's any food for you, the reason why the fast was so great is that you look at, going back to the book, You Are the Placebo, what affects me may not affect you. You may not have an allergy. Actually, I just realized also, I used to eat shiitake mushrooms. Now it seems like I can't eat them. So when you look at those situations about food, going back to the beginning part of the video, where food can heal you, so can fasting, you have to be very careful and really pay attention to what you're eating, because it may be your body spends so much time in inflammation that you don't realize how much of an effect it has. So it's good to observe what you're eating, how it's affecting your performance. So whether if you're an athlete, if you're exercising, whatever you're doing, in the end, you're trying to keep yourself clean for optimum psychological energy and also physical performance, no matter what you're doing. So that's the reason why I do this stuff. And that's why I continue to do it, because I'm just trying to figure out what works for me. It may not work for you, but again, you have to go through that trial and error and figure out what works for you, and it's sustainable beyond what's popular. So I think that's all of it. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.